Hi, my name is James Andrella, and you're listening to the Back to Human podcast. On the show with me today, I have Weston Rowe, owner of Rowe Naturals, a company that produces grass-fed tallow skincare products and also organic cotton clothing. And this is a sequel to the previous episode I did on primal eating and eating raw meat. I just wanted a little bit more information. I've been following Weston for quite some time now. Been very interested in his lifestyle, and especially because, as I understand it, he has recently become a father and they feed their baby raw meat too. So I'm interested to learn what his process was in deciding to follow through with that and how he got into primal eating himself. Without further ado, Weston, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, Weston, what was life like growing up for you? Always interested in this because going the primal eating approach or even taking any type of dietary lifestyle change, it's quite interesting that everyone has like this similar story. They grew up on like processed food. So, what was life like growing up for you, and what was the catalyst to getting into primal eating?
Mhm. Well, I grew up here in Omaha, Nebraska. I got two brothers, and we grew up eating mostly, I guess you would say, a normal balanced diet. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so it was a lot of just real basic meals like meat and vegetables, but usually a lot of meat heavy stuff. We ate a lot of cereal for breakfast, like most kids from my generation. So there was a lot of grains involved and things like that. Um, I remember a couple specific things, like when we would have hamburgers. I remember I always preferred to have my hamburger by itself, no cheese, no bun, and I would eat it with a fork and knife. And that's how I've just loved to eat hamburgers. So I remember thinking about that later on down the road, like that was odd that I used to do that. And I don't know if I was trying to avoid the processed cheese and the gluten in the bun or whatever, but so you could say that I was kind of a weird eater in that respect, but I ate pretty much everything and I never had any gut issues, never had any problems. Um, and we didn't have a whole lot of junk food, which was a blessing. So we ate your standard canned food and processed food and things like that, but we didn't have a whole lot of junk like pop and sugar and candy and chips and like things like that. So I was blessed to not grow up with that. Um, but I suppose you could like fast forward into my teens when I started sort of getting into like the brain fog era of my life, where everything just kind of got kind of foggy. And my mood, I guess you could say, was probably a little bit off, a little bit dipped. Like I was probably depressed or something, just things were a little bit off as I got into my teens. And progressed into my late teens and early 20s, and it got even worse. And got basically all the way until like my mid 20s. And I started getting into like weightlifting, which made me feel a lot better. So I started lifting weights a lot, and then I started researching about diet, about how to put on muscle, like most guys in their 20s are like, how can I put on muscle? How do I do it? And they always say eat protein. Eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight or whatever they say. So that was like one of the first things I ever did health wise. I was like, all right, I'm gonna eat a bunch of protein, lift weights. So that's what I did. Of course, I got the big old jugs of whey protein, and from Optimum Nutrition or wherever I got it from. And I was just eating a lot of protein and lifting weights, and I got really big and strong. And I felt awesome. I felt super balanced. I was like, not using any drugs or alcohol or anything. I was completely sober and just lifting weights and feeling like top of my life. I don't know if you want like my whole life story right now, but
But I mean, did you go through any like health challenges besides the brain fog? Were you dealing with like any anxiety? You said that you were dealing with a little bit of depression, so here for the full
yeah,
story.
for sure, dude. Like, when I was younger, I had really bad acne too. I still have scars all over my face from it, all over my forehead from it. Cystic acne. Wasn't like terrible, terrible, but I would have like pretty bad regular breakouts with that. But yeah, just kind of like the brain fog and like the mood crashes and energy crashes. And I always felt like really spaced out. That was kind of like my big thing. Um, but other than that, I was a pretty healthy guy, a pretty healthy, strong kid. We didn't get sick a whole lot or anything like that. I was, pretty healthy compared to a lot of people that I've ran into for sure. But yeah. So that's the early life.
And you weren't really eating any junk food at this time when you were dealing with those issues of the brain fog. It was still just like cooked meats, like a lot of cooked
Um,
protein.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when you get into like my teens and stuff, it's like, where do you draw the line between junk food and food? Because like, I remember when I got into what's that? When I got into high school, um, we had like a Godfather's Pizza and a Taco John's inside of our high school, right?
Mm.
Serving
Yep.
us food, man. And I was, I didn't come from like a rich high school or anything. We were just pretty middle class. It was a pretty new thing that they were starting to do, putting restaurants inside the high school to cater. So I remember for lunch, when I was like, probably 16 or something, like my lunch was literally like two soft shell tacos and like some tater tots. And I was like a pretty big dude. I was like 6'2", and I just looked back at that and I was like, I can't believe I was eating that to sustain. And for breakfast, I had cereal. So all the way until dinner every day, I've had cereal and then two soft shell tacos and tater tots. So that was kind of like stuff I was eating that was contributing, I think, to some of my issues. But yeah, we had like a pretty good dinner every day, so that kind of helped. But it was still, your average, not so great food.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a Pizza Hut in my high school, and it's always amazing. Like you see these kids that are growing tall, like kids are huge nowadays. I feel like they're aging faster. And then you look at what's sustaining them. It's like, how are they growing this big off of crap? It's all crap.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like when you finally made the transition to eating raw food? So you had this intuitive kind of hit. I would say it was like a gift avoiding the bun and the probably processed cheese that doesn't even really melt properly. So what
Right.
was it like when you initially started to eat the raw meat? Was there any hurdles that you had to overcome, any conditioning that you had to get past?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I basically getting into the raw meat, like the first thing I did, just to go a little bit before that was I quit eating gluten. And then that was pretty life-changing for me. And then I decided to quit all carbs. And then I went carnivore and then I went raw. And that all happened like pretty fast. That was all within like 5, 6 months, maybe 3, 4 months. So then I started eating raw and it's hard to explain in words, but the energy was just so much better than cooked food. The clarity, the mental clarity, the almost like a mild euphoria when I ate it. And the taste was definitely something I had to get used to because we're so used to eating processed sugar, salty foods for our entire lives that basically like our taste buds are conditioned to respond to those types of foods only. So when we get like back to what our, I believe is our natural human diet, it can be kind of shocking and it can taste kind of bland and maybe kind of gross. I remember I had to kind of wash every bite down with a little bit of water. So I would like take a bite of a steak and then kind of wash it down with water. And my first couple steaks I actually like salted with steak seasoning and stuff just to kind of just get it down. But which I kind of laugh at now because I could eat anything now. But that was something I had to do, man. And especially when you get into like organs like liver and brain and things like that. Those were hard to get down. I would gag on that stuff for sure, pretty hard. And but something intuitively, and also what I was researching online with Augenus, who we were just talking about a little bit ago, the stuff that he had written about, it was all clicking, and it was like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Like, I need to force myself to eat this stuff because it's going to be the best thing for me. And then eventually what happened is I started actually enjoying the flavors of it. And I love the flavors now. And now when I go back to regular foods, like I can't even drink bottled water anymore that's got a little bit of salt added to it because it's too strong. It's like I can't stand the taste of it because I don't add salt to my food. So now I'm super not, I used to be sensitive to the raw foods. Now I'm sensitive to the cooked foods. So it kind of
Mm,
flip-flopped a little bit.
mhm. And with was it, so you no longer salt your food. That was one question that I was going to ask later on. If you use like any type of seasonings, um, I noticed that whenever I eat like I'm still not in the raw food world myself yet. I'm kind of tiptoeing. This is my little taste test to just introduce myself. I tried raw picana a few weeks ago, and I was actually really, really amazed by the taste of it. But I noticed that if I'll eat a ribeye and it's pretty rare, I get more of a boost from there. I know that I'm like destroying the minerals and the enzymes like on the outside. I don't know if the meat on the inside is affected, so I'm getting a benefit from that.
Mhm.
But it seems like you made a logical progression, which is kind of what I'm going through right now. I've tried ketogenic in the past, more carnivore-ish myself right now, and then jumping into the primal eating seems to be my next logical step. So that seems like a logical progression rather than just going gung-ho and jumping from the processed foods and eating straight raw meat.
Right.
So how do you how do you preserve your meat and how do you source your meat now? What are you looking for? Are you going for quality or what are we looking for here?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely going for quality because I think that's the most important thing personally. Um, Fresh and grass fed is ideally what I like to get, what I like to source. I can't always get fresh, but I can always get grass fed. So a lot of times the grass fed I get will be frozen, but about half the time I can get it actually fresh, never frozen, like freshly slaughtered. So that's ideally what we like to get. Usually in like beef quarters or beef halves, bulk bundles. And we'll get it vacuum sealed in plastic. That's to this point, I haven't found a better way to store it. It's unfortunately in plastic, but plastic is one of those things that I have found it's like almost impossible to avoid with food because it's like whoever's processing it, it's either plastic or glass jars, and who has the space in their fridge to put a bunch of jars in there full of meat, um, so yeah, I just get it like that. And grass fed is like our number one priority when we're looking for meat because I think that what goes into the animal, it's like is most important thing. Like they say, you are what you eat. So, what the animal eats is what's building your body. And I'm a big anti glyphosate guy. I don't like all the Roundup and glyphosate that they're spraying on all of our crops and corn and wheat. And then they grind all that stuff up and then they feed it to cows and fatten them up. And that's my biggest problem with grain fed meat is just all the glyphosate that could be in there. So not to mention the fact that now that I've eaten so much grass-fed meat, like I don't like the taste of grain-fed meat anymore.
Mhm.
So, and also I believe there's a metaphysical component to food. I believe that like the spirit of the animal lives on in the food. So like I believe that whatever kind of life the animal lived, that energy remains in the food. And then if you eat that, that can take place, that can like make a home inside your own body. So I think it's very important to eat food from healthy, like cared for animals because that energy can actually, I think, affect us.
Absolutely, I agree with that. My fiance, she just watched this Netflix documentary the other day where like a husband he murdered his kids and his wife, and literally the first thing that pops up to me is like this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for the food, the processed stuff, the junk stuff as well. But I do believe there is that component where like if the angry or if the animal was stressed, if they were constantly confined and eating or sleeping in their own poop, it's like
Hmm.
now you're getting that type of energy as well. So I do believe that it lives on and it's beyond just what the animal's eating as well. It's
Hmm.
interesting because I've read comments too where people they actually say that they like the taste of grain finished meat, but like you said, that they're eating pretty much all the wheat in the United States. The wheat that's cultivated here is sprayed with glyphosate. So there's an argument where is it the actual gluten that's causing all these problems like Crohn's, IBS, skin issues, whatever it may be, or is it actually the glyphosate? Like you're consuming Roundup, because I'm sure you've come across people that say they can go overseas to like Europe, they can eat the wheat, the pasta, the pizza over there, and they'll lose weight and they feel
Yep.
really, really good.
Yep. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's the great debate, man, and we'll figure it out at some point. But I think it could be a combination of both because both make sense. So like we've modified the gluten grain, so our bodies haven't yet caught up to being able to adapt to digest the new gluten grain that they've somehow created in a lab or whatever they did. And then also the fact that there's chemicals on it too. That's not a good thing. So it could be a combination of both.
So you don't have a problem consuming the frozen meat then. So like if I was to go to my farmer's market over here that gets grass-fed, grass finished beef, I'd be able to thaw that out and I would be able to eat it, no problems. Or is there like a detriment to eating frozen meat from your
No,
experience?
it's fine. It's fine, man. I've eaten, I mean, up to this point, over half of my meat in the last 6 years has been frozen. So there's no issues with it at all. The only problems that you're going to run into are just minor, like you're going to get some nutrient degradation in there. And so it's not going to be quite as nutritious. But I've stayed extremely healthy over the last 6 years, eating mostly frozen. So I know that it is sustainable, at least for sure.
Did you have any detox symptoms when you started this? Because the previous guest I mentioned, he had some pretty rough detoxes.
Um, I had a couple like flus, like pretty bad flus. Like I didn't have like regular detoxes like some people get where they just kind of feel like a little bit of crap all the time. Like I just had a couple major like colds and flus at the beginning. And I had a really bad detox after I got one of my root canals removed. That was an interesting one. I had a failed root canal, and then I started learning about going down the root canal rabbit hole. And I got this tooth removed right here, this canine tooth, and it drained whatever was up in there. It had been there for about 10 years. It drained it all out. And looking back on it, this was dumb, but I just kind of swallowed it all. I didn't know what else to do with it. So I was just swallowing all of it. And I got more sick than I've ever been in my entire life. Like that was one of the worst detoxes I ever had in my life, was taking that root canal out. But that all happened in the first like year and a half that I started eating raw meat. So it all kind of like blended in together for me. But for the most part, yeah, just a couple detoxes and flus. And I've had maybe one flu or two flus since, and that's about it. And some minor colds and stuff. I keep a medical journal, so I got it all written
How long have you been eating this way?
August will be 6 years. So we're looking, I guess it'll be 6 years in a couple weeks.
So you had some of the flus. I know that when I was going like the ketogenic approach, there's always the keto flu that people talk about, and they mention how this is more of like a electrolyte imbalance, or you're just dehydrated essentially. So when
Right.
your insulin levels come down, you're going to be excreting more potassium, more salt. So you need to replenish that. But you don't do any salt. You don't do any salt water now.
Nope.
What's your do you think that's a bad thing? Salt? What you
Um, I,
learned?
I just don't think it's necessary to add salt rocks to our diet. It doesn't make sense to me that we would have to seek out rocks in nature to fill our diet. It makes sense to me like the rocks that exist in nature that have sodium or salt in it. Um, the water would come down and dissolve that into the soil, and then that salt would become food for bacteria, which would feed the roots of the plants, and that would come through the plants, and then the ruminants would come around and eat the plants, and then we eat the ruminants. So we would get the sodium in our diet through that way, which is how I get the sodium in my body currently today. And I feel like I'm proof that you don't need salt because I've been doing this for 6 years. And but I always question myself. I'm not ever convinced that I have it always figured out. So I'll go back and I will add salt to my food periodically, just to see if it does anything. And it does nothing, man. It just increases the flavor. That's it.
That I got to get used to eating my ribeyes without salt then, because that's like one of the tastiest things. I know that if I didn't salt it enough, it's like I need a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, when you cook it, every once in a while we will have like a cooked meal. We'll go out and have like a rare steak at a restaurant or something. Families in town, stuff like that. And they of course put salt and seasoning on it. So I'll have it at that point. But it's not something I regularly put in. But it is delicious, man. I'm not gonna lie. If you get it on a nice cooked ribeye, like I still enjoy that. But it has downsides now that I never saw before. Like, because I eat raw every single meal, and then I'll go and eat like a cooked meal, and it just brings us down, man. And me and my wife, we report the same things. We're just like, we don't feel as good, Like we'll have like busy weekends or whatever where we have like, grandma's in town, and then we got a birthday the next day, and like all this stuff going on. And it's like, for some reason, like we'll be going out to dinner like 2 times in a weekend or something to have a steak. And after that weekend, it's like we both just don't feel right. It's like we need to go back to eating raw meat. Like, so we know that we'll never go back to eating cooked food just because of our experiences with like dabbling with it here and there. It's like after 2 days of it, it just drags us down so much, man.
It's good that you have that awareness. And it's kind of like an elimination diet where if you were to take junk food out of your system, for instance, for 30 days, like the whole food or whole 30,
Yeah.
and then you finally introduce it again, then you actually, it's like, oh, that's what it's doing in my body. Now I'm getting the eczema, I'm getting the rashes, I'm getting the bloating, I'm passing gas and such like that. How'd you
Yep.
get your wife on board with this?
Well, she found me through my channel.
Wow.
So it was really easy, man. I didn't have to give her the sales pitch at all. She had already been watching my videos and took a little fancy to me, and so we started talking, and I just invited her down here, and she was already eating raw, the first day I met her. So it was the coolest thing, man. We met and then we had a raw meal together. And I had to, I've had to kind of get her schooled on a few things and get her adapted to other things, like into the more weird stuff, like brains and certain organs and things like. But yeah, she's 100% raw, man, and she had her own set of issues going on, bad stomach and gut issues, and different issues than what I had experienced. But she found that raw milk and raw meat made her feel so much better than cooked food, so she just went with it.
It's awesome, man. So she knew what she was getting into. She knew what she was signing up for.
Oh yeah, yeah, she knew it.
Has there been any issues with other relationships, like with your family? So you'll say that you'll eat cooked foods, but do they think it's weird? Do they try to like stay away from you or
They're pretty cool. I mean, I'm obviously, I mean, there's a couple weird people in my family, so it's like, they're not like total like normies per se. Like my mom, she's a pretty cool lady. She's very open-minded, very smart, and a bit eccentric in some ways. So like, she's been pretty open to it, but sometimes she'll make comments here and there that, like specifically about the baby, and we can get into that later, but like maybe introducing him to a balanced diet later on and blah blah blah. She's kind of in that the balanced diet zone, that a lot of people are stuck in. But which I understand. It makes sense. You kind of want to cover all your bases or whatever. But for the most part, they've been pretty cool. I think the only thing that I remember my grandpa said before he passed away was he thought I was going to get sick because I wasn't eating vegetables. But I was just laughing because I was already a year and a half into it at that point. I was like, I haven't eaten vegetables in like a year and a half. Like, you figured I'd be sick by now, right?
Mhm.
But no, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. And for the most part, people just they don't like talk about it. You know what I mean? It's just like whatever.
And then if you're at like a family gathering or anything, you don't have any problems eating the cooked food, even though you're gonna probably take a hit.
Yeah, like we will, like if we have something going on at somebody's house, we will usually bring our own food. But if it's like an occasion where we know where we're going, like we're going to an actual steakhouse and we can get like a cut of steak, then we'll do that. But if they're cooking something else at their house that's basically not steak or not like a brisket or something, then we just won't mess with it and we'll bring our own stuff.
Do you think you'll ever get to the point where you'll just ask the restaurant to give you the chunk of meat without cooking it?
I had thought about it. And you can go to like there's a place here in Omaha that it's called Brother Sebastian's, and you can get like a beef carpaccio off the appetizer menu. So you can get raw meat. You just got to look around for it.
Yeah, when I tried that raw picana the other week, my fiance was not having it. She's like, please don't do that in front of me. So I'm like, okay, but it was pretty good, man. So I wanted to ask you that just to see if you had any experience with trying to navigate that. But I cut out vegetables probably like 4 months ago, and then she jumped right on board. She's like, intuitively, I felt like something was there for me to experience, and I noticed as soon as I cut them out, it's like I feel I have even more energy, and I'm
Mm.
not on the raw food yet, but
Right.
more like carnivore approach, eating pretty much just animal products, no
Yep.
veggies at all. So why do you avoid the vegetables? Is it because of the oxalates or what reason?
I just, at this point, man, I'm just going with my instincts and intuition. And I'm really not trying to think too much about any of the stuff you read online, the scientific stuff, oxalates and anti-nutrients and all that stuff that people get really freaked out about. Because I have no way of proving that, but what I can go off of is my experiences with or without food, right? And I've cut vegetables out for 6 years, and like I've never felt better in my life. So that's just kind of what I go with, and that's what I like to report back to people with my channel too. Is it's a really simple channel, and it's a lot of people really like it, and probably other people might find it boring because I don't get into a lot of the scientific stuff because I just find the intellectual approach to all this stuff like just super boring and time consuming. And I'm like, how about we just experiment? I'll be the experiment. I'll report back to you and let you know what's going on. And you can look at me and talk to me and judge whether or not you think I'm a healthy man or not. And we'll go from there. Like I just think that's the best way to go about it.
I got tons of books over here and they're all scientific. I really don't like diving into studies either because I feel like it's boring. I rather rely on like the anecdotal experiences such as yours and having these conversations because you're a real human
Right.
face to face here and you seem like a pretty level-headed person. You don't seem like you're off your rocker. So that's the stuff that I want to hear about.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So you said that you had to kind of school your wife a little bit or like teach her some things about organs. Um, what what examples could you provide for that, or what's the benefit of eating specific organs?
Well, okay, so yeah, I believe the first time she ever had brain was with me. Brain is just an amazing food. My absolute number one favorite raw food of all time. It's unbelievable, man. The feeling you get off of it, the euphoria you get off of it, and just everything is amazing about it. And that was the first time she ate it was with me, and so she kind of had to get used to like the flavors, and she's I think like gagging a little bit and just stuff like that. But so she experienced a lot of her first times with certain organs, like with me. But yeah, the benefits are great, man. Like, and you can look into like the research behind what's inside of them. Like, apparently brain is the highest in vitamin C. So a lot of people probably don't know that. That's like an interesting fact. You get lots of vitamin C from the brain. It's also very high in cholesterol. So you're getting like this real good cholesterol pump, which feeds your actual brain. It's like your brain is made of cholesterol. So also is the cow brain and the goat brain. So, I just kind of go off of my feelings with it. Like when I eat liver and brain, I just feel amazing after I eat it. And so that's what I go off of. But they're also just total nutrient powerhouses, like spleen. That's another one. You look up the nutrient composition of spleen. It's unreal, dude. Like how many nutrients and how dense it is. They're just dark red and just, full of life. So that's why we eat them. It's just, we feel great on them.
It's interesting. I was thinking back when I was a kid watching Fear Factor with Joe Rogan on there. One of the challenges, or some of them, are always to eat like organs, or even on like the show Survivor back in the day. It's like almost the conditioning right there to make you disgusted of these type of things.
Mm-hmm. No, man, that's hilarious, dude. I went on, I think it was like Tubi or whatever, that website where you can watch old TV shows. And I did that like last year, a couple years ago. I went on, looked on the old Fear Factors. And because I wanted to find the old raw meat ones, the old raw ones. And yeah, I was just laughing because like they went into a butcher shop and he had all these like cow brains out on a platter. And they're just like, oh my God. And I was just laughing. I was like, God, I would have cleaned house on this show, man.
I know, right? You do really
Yeah.
well. You'd have a
For-
good time. You'd be chilling.
oh yeah, for sure. But then I'd probably lose on the stunts or something. But whatever.
Was it difficult for you to start consuming raw poultry or the organs? The textures didn't bother you at all?
If I remember right, I think I waited about a year to eat raw chicken, and I'm not sure why I did that. It's hard for me to remember. It was like 6 years ago. It's hard for me to remember why I did that. But um, about a year in, I started introducing chicken and I loved it, man. It became like my favorite. Uh, Raw pastured chicken breast is just delicious, man. It's like sushi grade meat. So the dark meats on the legs and the thighs, those can be a little bit more, I guess, flavorful or gamey or whatever you want to call it, raw. But the breast is just delicious, man. So it took me about a year to break into the chicken, and now I regularly eat the raw chicken too. And fish was something that I really enjoyed right off the bat too. I was getting all sorts of raw red snapper and salmon and tuna and all sorts of stuff and eating that. But now I've gotten away from the fish for some reason. I'm not sure why. And now I'm just back to just eating mostly beef again. So
So there was no concerns with any parasites or bacteria like salmonella with starting this trend?
no, no, it never even crossed my mind, man. To be honest with you, it never crossed my mind.
And you've never really gotten sick?
I got sick one time off of raw wild venison. And it was from a friend of mine actually. He was a hunter and he hunted it. And I still to this day am not sure what happened. So it's interesting, and I think it was an important lesson for me. Um, because I can say that like I'm a believer in food poisoning. It does happen, man. It's not just some fable or like myth. It does definitely happen, and it happened to me twice in a row with raw venison. I got super sick. I was throwing up and diarrhea for like 4 hours, and then it was done. It was completely over, and I was fine the next day. So it was obvious it was from the venison. It was obvious it was food poisoning. My only theories as to why it happened is possibly how he handled the animal after he hunted it, because it was like the only time that I ever strayed away from my normal food source. Because I always got food from these local farmers where I knew how they processed them and blah 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 blah. And then I get some from this guy that hunted this deer, and I just think something happened with the way he stored it in his truck or something. And I got like a massive like detox from it twice in a row. So that's the only time I've gotten sick though, was from venison. I've never gotten sick from beef. I've never gotten sick from fish, never gotten sick from chicken. I've eaten rotten meats. I've eaten rotten liver. I have some chicken fermenting right now in a jar. It's been fermenting for like a month. I'm about to eat that. So, yeah.
Is there any point where you would throw out meat then? Like if you're consuming high meat or rotten meat?
What happens, I believe, is that if you don't air it out properly, the bacteria can turn anaerobic very quickly. And that's when you can get like, let's say you have like a package of meat inside of a sealed plastic bag and you just put it in the fridge for like a month or a month and a half. That's going to get pretty weird. And that's going to start getting that kind of green film on the inside of the bag and stuff. And it's going to start smelling funny. And so you got to kind of use your instincts. But I think what happens is if you just air it out properly, like what we do with our fermented meat, put it in a jar twice, 3 times a week, you air it out for like an hour. That helps the bacteria propagate and it keeps it from turning anaerobic. Um, you're fine. And I think that's the way that, meat was designed by the creator to last, because, you can dry age meat, you can hang it in the air, you can dry age it forever as long as the conditions are right. I've taken like roasts and I've stuck them on racks in my fridge for like weeks at a time and they just sit there, they don't go bad. The only time I've ever seen them go bad in quotes is when they're sealed, deprived of oxygen.
Hmm. Does the fermented meat smell at all? Like, is it similar to if you left your whey protein shake in your car for 3 days and then you open it up, it's like, oh, can't smell it.
Oh, it's way worse, dude. Way worse. Oh yeah. The fermented liver. Okay, so at this point I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it. I think it's actually like a delicacy. And I'm not exaggerating or anything like that. I believe it's a true delicacy. It's one of the most delicious things I can eat is the fermented liver. Um, but now I'm fermenting chicken, and that's like a whole different thing, man. When we air that out, I'm actually airing it out right now as we speak in our kitchen. It smells terrible, dude. It smells so bad. So I'm really curious to see what this stuff's gonna actually taste like.
First time you're gonna try it?
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna probably make I should do it this weekend, but I'm gonna make a video of myself eating it here on my probably my Instagram.
Nice, nice.
So
I'll tune
stay
into that
tuned.
one.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Do you eat any fruit?
Yep. Yep. Just in season. Yep. Spring and summertime. We'll do one fruit per day. And it's usually just a variety of whatever we can get our hands on, man. From peaches to apples to oranges to kiwis to pineapple. We're growing watermelon right now in our garden. So next month-ish, we'll have a good crop of watermelon coming in, God willing. And then of course we're growing tomatoes and cherry tomatoes and cucumbers as well. So we're making homemade refrigerator pickles out of cucumbers, and then out of the tomatoes, sometimes we'll make like salsa, but usually we'll just eat them by themselves.
Mm, okay. So you are dabbling with some other stuff rather than just meat. Do you
Oh
said
yeah.
God willing, so I have a question. This is probably pretty out there, but do you feel like eating this way has brought you closer to God, the creator?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, man. And but I will say I don't know if it's the way of eating that's actually doing it, but I think that there's been some sort of movement or force in my life that has pushed me in that direction. And eating raw meat has been like a component of it, because I want to hesitate to try to make raw meat as the god or as the new religion, you know? But it's definitely, in my words, I would say that it's helped clean my body out and it's helped tune me into the higher frequencies out there. So I believe that there's higher information out there, there's higher consciousness and higher frequencies, and you can become sort of polluted, with the fluoride and the pesticides and the chemicals and the drugs and like all the crap that we put in our bodies. Once you clean all that stuff out, I think you become more of a receptor to that. So I think that's kind of what happened
Mhm.
with me. But yeah, that was a big, I had like a massive spiritual awakening around the same time that I started eating raw meat. And I don't know what happened first or second. It's just, it kind of all happened at the same time. So it was kind of interesting.
Would you mind going into that, if it's not too personal? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, basically just to kind of, expand on tuning into the higher frequencies, et cetera. It was just like I had found myself, I was in a place in life where I just wasn't at peace. And I was trying to find ways to find peace and find my direction. And part of that, I felt like a fundamental part of that was cleaning up my diet and also sort of ditching, drugs and alcohol and things like that I was using to medicate myself. And so there was just like a big cleansing that happened during that time, like a biological cleansing, you could say. And then I guess sort of at the same time I started having just like revelations and things. And I was, there's certain teachers that I was following that were opening up my mind to certain concepts about just overcoming generational trauma, familial trauma, and stuff like that I believe everybody deals with to a certain point, and finding ways to overcome that. Just adopting certain morals and ethics from like Christianity to just learning how to forgive and become more compassionate to other people, and just very simple stuff like that. And it's just just trying to implement that into my life over the last few years has been helpful.
You feel like having a child now even kind of drives that home even more?
Yeah, man, having a baby, like, yeah, I'm to the point now where it's like I don't even want to cuss in my house. It's like I've had such a foul mouth for so long. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I said a cuss word today, but I'm like, he's still young enough. He may not, he's only 6 months. He may not understand yet. But I've cut out most of the bad ones, the F words. I'm trying to not say that. But yeah, I'm to the point now where it's like I don't even want to, yeah, put those ideas out there. And also get to the point to where like there's just no negative energy at all in the household, there's no arguments, there's no this, there's no that, we just keep everything smooth because I don't want to pass anything on to my kids, you know. I don't want to pass anything on to him. I don't want to traumatize them. So we're just going to keep everything cool, keep it all clean. And just, yeah, it's been just a slow progression into, I thought I was straight edge like a year ago, and it's just becoming more and more and more and more straight edge, man, for sure.
Hmm. Definitely puts things into perspective. And it's like you see, there's a book that I read, it's called Essentialism. And what it states is very few things are actually important.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So our boy is over a year and a half. He's like 20 months now, I believe. We don't have him on any raw foods, but I do want to get into how do you feel like it was safe to introduce this to your child? What foods does is it a boy or a girl?
The boy. Yeah.
Boy. What foods does he eat?
So, all right. So we just went off of like instinct and intuition. Like I said, I think if you clean your body out and you clean everything out and you just become like a receptacle for, the pure information of the universe or whatever you want to call it, we're meant to know certain things. Like I think by our creator, we're meant to know certain things without having to read books or go online or anything. And so just from my experiences over the last 6 years, and then also my wife's experiences over the last 2 or 3 years, 3 years ish with the raw foods, we know that it's like the best thing that we've ever put in our bodies. So, and like I said, I've had, one sickness and it was from a weird food supplier. And so you do the math on it, like how many times I've eaten, it's like there's like a 0.0001% chance that I would get sick. So we know the odds are so low that it was safe to introduce it to them. And plus, we've talked to other families that are feeding their babies raw meat as well. We've studied Ogenus, where he's talked about all the kids that the parents he's coached that had kids that were eating raw foods and they never had any issues. And so that's just what, we're like, it's got to be fine, you know? So yeah, we did that, the research on it. And then we decided, what's a good time. And we wanted to wait until, everybody says about 6 months, which seems about right. Seems about right. Um, but some people wait. Some people wait until they get their first tooth. They believe that like the tooth is the indicator that they're ready to eat. So there's like different kind of philosophies out there. You're going to find all sorts of different ones, but it seems like the middle ground most people land on is about 6 months. We got a little antsy and we decided to jump in about 4.5 months, 5 months. And he liked it. He took it in and he liked it and he started eating it. But I can't remember what made us decide to wait. I think just as an experiment, I said, you know what? How about we just take a break now and we'll see how he responds to not feeding him now, just in case we started feeding him a little too early or whatever. I said, let's just do that. And so after a couple weeks of feeding him, we just stopped for another month. And then we started feeding him again at 6 months. And he just loves it, man. He just goes crazy over it, man. Like just screaming and just he can't wait to grab this. My wife brings the spoon over and she's got her pinky down and he grabs her pinky like that and he brings it over and he just loves it, man. But yeah, so it's obvious now that you just, we're doing the right thing for sure.
Did you guys have a home birth?
We did, yeah.
How-
We did a free birth.
Nice.
Yeah, we did a free birth, so there was no intervention outside of we did actually call our birth keeper to come over at the last minute because we weren't sure. She was in labor for 3 days, and so we weren't really sure what was going on. So we called her over at the last minute, and then the baby actually came out like as soon as she came over.
That's a long labor, man.
Yeah, it was, and it was intense, man. Like the first couple days were very sporadic contractions, like how it kind of begins, just very every once in a while contraction. But the last day, this was actually over Christmas as well. So she was in labor through Christmas Day, which was wild. So we had all of our family hanging on the phone, waiting, trying to figure out what's going on. The last day was intense though, man. She had contractions every 5 minutes and they were just so intense and painful, man. We were like, what is going on? But she's a trooper, man. She made it through it and he came up December 26th. It was almost a Christmas baby, but we're glad he came a day late.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, my fiance is actually born on December 25th, Christmas Day, so
Oh,
she doesn't
really?
like it because it's like she has her day taken away from her.
I know.
Mhm.
That's, yeah. Yeah. He got lucky.
Hmm. So I imagine you guys didn't go through with any like inoculations or any shots.
Nope, no, we did nothing, man. We didn't do any shots. We didn't do any tests. We didn't do any ultrasounds. We had no idea if it was going to be a boy or a girl, but we knew it was a boy because we had had multiple dreams about it. Both of us had multiple dreams. I had a dream actually a year before I met my wife that I had a son, that I met my son. So it was just yeah, completely hands off and no PKU tests, no pinpricks on the heel, no nothing, man.
That's awesome. That's full faith. That's full trust right there. And I do agree with you wholeheartedly that we were just supposed to know some things. I think a lot of what has been done, whether that's school, whether that's the injections that we're getting, they kind of take us away from creation or reality. So if you just observe what happens in nature, a lot of your answers are right there. You don't need to question too much. And then when we have all these things, the processed food, the junk that we're putting in our bodies, I consider the body the temple. It creates a lot of noise. So you don't get those messages. You don't get the dreams. You don't get the little intuitive hits.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that once you started to eat cleaner, or even raw, that you started to dream more?
Oh, for sure. So, well, the biggest thing that helped me start dreaming again was quitting cannabis. And I think that's like a big thing nowadays is everybody's like smoking weed and smoking cannabis. And I got caught up in that for many years. As soon as I quit cannabis, my dreams were just vivid every single night. So it's hard to say like if it was the raw foods or that, but it seems like that was the biggest factor. And but one thing that has helped me have like super vivid dreams is eating brains. So that's something I've never heard anybody talk about outside of like I've brought it up on my streams and other people have corroborated those experiences with me. But when you eat raw brain, you'll have the most intense, vivid, cinematic dreams of your life. And I don't know what that is. But yeah. But to answer your question in general, yeah, I dream like crazy every single night that I go to sleep and I dream all night long. It's pretty wild.
When I began supplementing with iodine, which I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I've looked into the work of Dr. George Fletchus and a few of the iodine doctors. They say it's great for producing smart babies. And our kid, he picks up things incredibly fast.
Hmm.
What I would think that it may be, I could be totally wrong, but my guess would be the iodine content in the pineal gland if you're consuming that with the brain. Because once I started supplementing with iodine, I almost love it now. I don't know if
Hmm.
I should stop, but I have awesome dreams, bro. Like it'll be 5 minutes before my alarm's about to set off and I'll be up, but I'll still be dreaming. And it's like
Oh
I
yeah.
know that I'm physically smiling and like this is awesome.
How do you take it?
I take Lugol's and I put it in my raw milk. I
Oh,
do
okay.
somewhere between like 50 to 125 milligrams a day.
Okay. Yeah, so I've experimented off and on with Lugol's, yeah, and I actually was using it. I just stopped a couple weeks ago, but I did another round of experimentation with that, where I was taking it every day for about a month or so. And I'm not really sure if I noticed anything or not. That's why I just stopped taking it just to see if something changes. But I don't really notice anything super profound when I take iodine. So I kind of just every once in a while I'll just kind of just use it and then I'll stop using it again. So
Yeah. Probably a little intuitive thing that your body's like once you're saturated, I imagine that it's not going to do much to you, but a
that's what
lot
I'm
of people are probably deficient.
that's what I'm thinking, man. And I've had experiences with supplements before where I've noticed pretty big differences. So I think it's just all about, yeah, just once you're filled up and then you're not going to notice it.
What is So you've learned from Agenus or his work anyway. What's your take on any supplements? Do you take any other supplements then?
No, I don't take anything regularly. Every once in a while, I will experiment with lion's mane. Like I like medicinal mushrooms, so I like the studies that they've done on like the neuroprotective and neurogenerative and nerve growth factor and things like that that are involved with some certain strains of mushrooms. So that interests me. Um, I got some ashwagandha from my mom about a month ago, and I was taking that a little bit at night, and that was pretty cool. That actually like made me really chilled out, but it's not something that I feel like I need. With any supplement though, I feel like I notice like a big benefit right after the beginning, and after a while, it's just like I don't need it anymore. So I've had that experience with like cordyceps. I think cordyceps mushrooms are really neat because they give me like a lot of energy. Those are really cool. But yeah, I just after a while, I'm just like I don't need this anymore, and so I prefer total sobriety, no supplements. I just want to get all my medicine from my food, and that's it.
Have you ever not supplemented? Have you ever like dabbled with psilocybin, like mushrooms, or you consider that
Yeah.
no, no? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've done quite a few experiments with psilocybin, whether it be large doses or micro dosing. I've had many adventures, and I think they're fascinating, man. Personally, that's what actually got me into exploring medicinal mushrooms because those are just so fascinating in itself. And so I was just like, what else is out here? There's like millions of mushroom strains. Like, what could these things possibly do for our minds and our body, you know?
Mycelium. It's like a
Yeah,
network underneath. Yeah, it's pretty
I
incredible. I
know.
think there's a documentary on it. And I can't remember the name off the top, but
Hmm.
yeah, mushrooms pretty I feel like they give me little intuitive hits too. I feel like they bring me closer to God, but may just be me.
No,
So
I agree. I agree.
with your boy eating the raw meat, so you're not really concerned about any illnesses or anything there. He seems to love it. What about in the future? Do you feel like it'll be a problem for him to socialize or be around friends when he's only consuming this? Or say, for instance, he goes over to a sleepover. How do
Right.
you think that you guys will help him navigate that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, we've had all these discussions and we're trying to figure it out right now too, what exactly how we're going to go about it, man. Because there's just so many different ways you can go about it. But his diet is probably going to most likely mimic our diet, which is 99% raw and 1% cooked. So that way, you know what a cooked meal tastes like. You can still socialize every once in a while. You can enjoy a meal with friends. Um, and also your body can be adapted to cooked foods, so it's not such a shock. So, he will be introduced to it in very, very small amounts, but it'll be years probably before we give him anything cooked. But as far as like, birthday parties, things like that, like that's tough because like, we're gonna probably draw the line at like junk food, like junk, like birthday cakes and like crap like that. Like we're probably gonna draw the line at that and talk to the parents. Or what I've heard what people do is probably what we're gonna do, which is the best idea, is you show up like an hour late after they cut the cake. So
True, true,
you
true.
just wait till everybody's eating everything and then you roll in and
Till
just go
everyone's
from there.
till everyone's already like cracked out and the kids are passing out underneath the playgrounds and such.
Right.
We did we did a ribeye for our baby's birthday because we drew the line there to a cake. I'm like, I don't want
Yeah.
any of that processed dyes, the colors, the numbers. He doesn't need any of that. And
No.
he's a very, very chill baby. And I
Cool.
love that about him. We gave him one piece of like dark chocolate. It had a little bit of refined coconut sugar in there,
Mhm.
refined coconut sugar. Uh, when we were going away for New Year's, and he was off the walls, bro. Like running. It was kind of funny to
Oh,
see at first.
yeah.
And granted, there was like tons of Christmas lights and everything around too. But I was like, we're
Wow.
never doing that again. Because
Yep.
you can see a night and day difference there. It's like he's chill
Uh-huh.
99% of the time. And then this one time when we give him something,
Uh-huh.
his body's reacting and he can't take it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's really good to know. And yeah, we're gonna avoid that too because we suspect the same thing's gonna happen with our kid. And so have you had him eat fruit at all yet?
Yeah, he eats fruit. He loves bananas,
Do you
apples.
notice do you notice any reactions to the sugar in the fruit?
No. And honestly, he kind of like manages himself. He doesn't like overeat or anything like that. He'll just take little bites and that's
Okay.
it. But
Yeah. Okay.
no mood swings, no tantrums.
Yeah.
I gave him a little bit of raw honey starting a few weeks ago, actually, nothing before.
Hmm.
But he likes it, and it's not like one of those things where if he doesn't have it, he loses his crap. So I
Right. Okay. Yeah,
think
just curious because I've heard of other people have had issues with their kids have, been eating raw meat their entire life, and then they just expose him to a little bit of fruit, and he even starts reacting to it. So I think everybody's probably different, though.
mm, how does your boy sleep through the night?
He sleeps great. I mean, we co-sleep, so we're all sleeping in the same. We got a floor bed, and it's a Faraday cage, and that's a whole different rabbit hole. But yeah, we're all sleeping on the floor together, and yeah, he co-sleeps and he's nursing all night. And like last night all slept like a rock last night. He sleeps great, man. I mean, he sleeps through the whole night.
He doesn't wake to feed in the middle of the night?
Yeah, he does. I'm not obviously usually not awake for that, but yeah, he every once in a while I will hear him whine a little bit, and then I'll hear my wife sort of turn over on her side, and I think she's probably switching him over to the other side. So
Mm,
like, yeah, that definitely happens for sure.
okay. Yeah, because that's pretty much what we have going on, and he still wakes up to feed in the middle of the night. Granted, he's almost 2 years now, but
Hmm.
we hear people say that their baby sleeps through the night. I'm like, what?
Hmm.
Like, okay, so they don't feed, or what they're doing is they're probably sleeping in another room.
Right.
Maybe they did like the cry it out method, and they just don't realize that they're waking up. So,
Yep. Yep. Probably.
so with my kid, I honestly just pray for discernment for situations like what I asked, like if he's over at a friend's house and they have junk food and stuff like that. I hope that by the time he's at that point, like he understands what's what. I'm not gonna like hide stuff from him and be like, hey, this is this.
Hmm.
And I just pray that he can literally understand it and see what it does to his body,
Yep.
and he'll choose not to do that.
Yep. Yeah, we've linked up with some other couples that have their kids on the diet, and they will introduce him to, like even something like salted cheese, which is something we don't have in our house. Give him a little bit of salted cheese or give him this or that and ask him, say, how does that make you feel? And just kind of get him familiarized with like what's going on, what he's putting in his body, how it makes him feel, etc. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Do you do any raw cheese yourself?
Yep. Yeah, we got raw and salted cheese we get from a local organic farm here. So yeah, we eat that pretty regularly and kind of binge on it and then go breaks without it. And you know how cheese is. One
Hmm.
of the most addictive foods on the planet. But we enjoy it, man.
From what I was reading with Agenus's work, it's almost like a sponge. It'll really help you detox.
Yep. Yeah, he claims that when you put it in your body, it absorbs toxicity, it absorbs toxins. So, and we've noticed that that does work. If you're ever feeling nauseous or sick or anything like that, if you just eat like couple cubes of cheese, it'll take it away pretty quick.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's honestly one of my favorite things too, so I'm glad that I'm on that boat.
Oh yeah.
What would be your favorite cut of meat? This is the last meat question that I have for you, but what's your favorite go-tos? I know you like the organs, you like the brains and such, but like regular cut of meat, what do you go for?
My favorite regular cut, obviously, would be like a filet mignon, a raw filet mignon. It's unbelievable. But outside of the filet mignon, which is the king in my opinion, um, we're really into top round or round roasts. That we have found is like a super flavorful cut. And so we're really into round right now. But that's kind of our go-to. It's what we eat like almost every day.
And how many meals do you typically eat?
We do two big meals. Well, okay, so I just recently in the last couple months started doing three meals. So I'm doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner now. but they're all meat meals. I used to do breakfast was just milk and eggs only, and then lunch and dinner was meat. Now I'm doing meat for all three. So we're just doing basically meat and fat for all three meals, and then I'll have a fruit for lunch.
Mhm. And you don't cut off the fatty portions of meat. That's my favorite part of the meat is the fat.
Yeah, we don't cut it off. No. And we supplement too. We have to supplement a bunch of fat with our meals, otherwise we don't get enough calories. So we have like a small mason jar, like a half pint, one of those, and we'll fill it up full of meat, and I'll eat pretty good portion of that every meal, full of grass-fed beef fat.
So let's talk about your company a little bit. So Rowe Naturals.
Mhm.
Why is organic cotton clothing important to you?
Well, first of all, it feels better, but you get so used to wearing like polyester. They put polyester in everything, man. And it's just plastic. It's just like a petroleum byproduct, and it's full of chemicals, and it's just terrible for us, man. It's terrible for the breathing environment. It fragments off and you're breathing in fibers and blah blah blah. It's just terrible. So uh there's that side of it, and then also like the cotton just feels so much more soft on your body. It's unbelievable, man. Like wearing natural fibers is, you know, I swear the more you get into this stuff, the more you're just turning into like a hippie, basically. Like I'm gonna be wearing like linen robes living in a cave pretty soon here, man.
You walk around like Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. The hippies, they really had it figured out, man, probably, besides a lot of the political stuff, but they've got it figured out. But yeah, natural fibers are awesome, man. Like I'm just starting to get into linen too. But yeah, yeah, cotton's great. Cotton's awesome, man. It's organic. None of the chemicals that would have been sprayed on the cotton are being left behind in the natural in the fibers. So you're not getting any chemicals, when you're sweating and things like that. It's also undyed. Everything we sell right now is undyed. So there's no dyes in it, no toxic dyes. It's great.
Have you ever read that study or heard about that study? It's like the frequency of fabric, I believe that it was,
Hmm.
and things like linen, wool, or organic cotton, they tested positive, but meanwhile, polyester,
Yep.
it was the frequency of death.
Yeah.
You're wearing dead clothing
Yes.
or clothing that's taken away from your vitality.
Yep, I've read that study, man, and I remember linen, I believe, was at the top, right? I
Yeah.
re
And that's what they used to use that in hospitals so people would actually heal. But
Yep,
now it's like, I don't even know
yep,
what it is. Probably polyester, synthetic fabric.
for sure. But yeah, that study's always been in the back of my mind, and I don't know if it's just my own projections or if it's real, but like ever since my wife started getting me linen stuff, like I swear I feel so much better in that clothing. It's unreal.
Mm. I try as much as I can to like go for organic cotton stuff, whether that's like pants, because I'm a coach, so I'm in the gym all the time, but
Hmm.
doesn't always look the best for what I'm looking to achieve. But
Yeah, I know what you
again, I
mean.
might be in linen clothes. I just had dreads prior to this episode. I just cut them off. I don't know if you checked my profile picture, but
Yeah, yeah, you look a
went
little
through it.
different. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been called the bougie hippie before. I'll
That's
take it.
Yeah, definitely. Take it as a compliment.
You said that you're floor sleeping. Do you have like a tatami or are you sleeping directly on the floor like a Japanese daybed?
Well, yeah, we eventually want to get there. We've just life's been coming so fast lately that like I just met my wife 2 years ago and we got married last year, and so I had to turn my single Faraday cage into a queen size Faraday cage when she moved in. And then we had our son, so then I had to expand out and make my queen size a king size. And so now I have a king size Faraday cage inside of my room, this giant cage. And but yeah, we've looked into like the natural mattresses and things like that. And eventually we're probably going to get there, but for now we're just using foam camping mats, which is supposedly one of the least toxic foams that we're using. We did a little research into it, but it's just about an inch and a half camping mat, and we got two of them on top of each other, and we just throw organic blankets on top of that, and we just sleep on that.
You got to keep her, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's a
Yep,
trooper.
you got to
She's
keep her.
she's a trooper, dude.
Do you ground at night too, or do you just have the Faraday cage?
Yeah, I sleep on a grounding mat.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. You know what you're doing, man. You're ahead of the game for sure.
I'm trying to cover all angles, man. Like taking a multifaceted approach to healing.
Mhm. Do you do any type of coaching yourself?
Yeah, I do consultations. So I've been doing consultations for the last probably 4 or 5 years. And yeah, I'll get like a couple few every month. And I've done tons over the years, but now time is just getting so thin for me. It's hard to squeeze them in because I'm working full time, then I'm also doing this Rowe Naturals on the side, and we got 4 social media channels now we're working on. So it's just like it's pretty crazy, man, doing all this stuff. We got that, and I still got Primal Book Club, which is something I made a few years ago, which has got all the books that we read. And then we got the Real Natural Human Diet, and then we got Rowe Naturals too.
So what else do you make with Rowe Naturals? I see that you have the grass-fed tallow skincare products. How do those help with your skin?
I started out, so it all began with my wife wanted to make me a beard balm because I was starting to grow this beard out, and she wanted me to make like a natural beard balm, and so that's what I used it for initially was the beard balm, and it's really good at like moisturizing and shaping out the beard, and then also keeping the beard itch from coming in down below here. It really helped out with that, but mostly just moisturizing and shaping it out, keeping it from getting dry. And I wasn't really having any skin issues or anything at the time, so I didn't really need, the diet kind of had that in check for me. But she then started getting into different stuff like whipped tallow, so we can like whip it up and make it into a cream. And then people that are having like actual issues can rub it on their skin and stuff. So it's really helpful for people that have had any kind of just dry skin, eczema, stuff like that, that they can't figure out what's causing it, or maybe they're just honestly too lazy to correct it with their diet and they just want to rub a cream. It's like, so there's at least a non-toxic version available that we're making. And but yeah, so I'll use that, and every once in a while I'll get too much sun at work because I'm outside, sometimes on a rooftop for like 8 hours, 9 hours a day. And so I'll get like almost too much sun, and I'll use that balm and just rub it all over my skin, and it just feels great. So it's a sun protectant too.
Do you feel like your skin's changed since you changed your diet too? Like you're more resilient out in the sun?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't burn as easily because I used to burn. And I think once I corrected all my nutrient deficiencies and I started eating a lot more animal fats, because I don't know what it is, like your body needs cholesterol or fat in order to synthesize vitamin D or something like that. So once I started just, pounding all this cholesterol and fat, I started synthesizing the vitamin D better, and I started just getting just a better tan than I was before, for sure.
And yeah,
Yeah.
once I really started, like I just eat copious amounts of butter, like raw butter.
Oh
I
yeah.
love it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you tried it, but I discovered it. I discovered it myself the other week. It's raw honey with raw butter. It's like
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
delicious, bro.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good
It tastes
too.
like toffee. It's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
And that's also good too if you dip it, like get dates and you dip dates in that with butter and
Hmm.
honey on it. It's delicious, dude.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, even with the skincare products, you'd say that the majority of issues are probably stemming from people's internal environment.
Yeah, I think any kind of rashes or acne or anything like that, that's coming from internally. And I tell everybody that, man. I've worked with guys that bought the creams and the balms from me, and they rubbed it on their skin. It took their acne away, which is amazing. But I always tell them, I'm like, you gotta change your diet, dude. That's number one, first and foremost. But it's good also for like these stuffs are good for like diaper rash and things for babies. So there's just certain situations where it's not always diet related.
'Cause you wouldn't really want to be putting any like the sun. I don't know if you know this, but like sunflower oil lotions or anything like that, is that the same as if you were to consume seed oils? Does it just get absorbed through your skin and it pretty much harms your mitochondria and such the same way?
I don't know for sure about that because I mean I think there is some sort of a barrier. Your skin has somewhat of like a barrier, but stuff does absorb through it at the same time. So I'm not really sure about that. I personally wouldn't risk it. I mean, tallow, the stuff that we sell, I believe is the world's best skin moisturizer. That's why we started selling it because it's just like this stuff, just a little bit goes the longest way, and it's just great, man. Like I wouldn't use anything else personally.
Was gonna ask if you use it for cooking, but you don't cook your food, so it doesn't matter.
You
But
can, you can eat it if you want.
straight up,
Yeah.
from my experience, it's kind of like tasteless, no?
The tallow?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's got a little bit of a like a sense to it still because we don't completely like fry everything out of it, and we try to keep the temperatures low when we're rendering it. But for the most part, yeah, it's pretty scentless and tasteless.
Do you use anything for baby when you're taking him out in the sun? Does he get like tallow on his skin, or you're just mindful of his
Yep.
exposure?
Yeah, we haven't put anything on him, and we've had him out a whole bunch this spring and summer, completely naked in the sun, and he's never burnt. And obviously, we're not laying him out there all day in 100 degrees or anything, but yeah, we're just he's out there for maybe an hour or two, and he's never been burnt since we started that.
Hmm. Yeah. Our boy, I've taken him out to the beach by myself, and like women will come up to me and it's like, "Hey, do you want to spray this toxic?" They don't know that it's toxic, but do you want to spray this sunblock on him? I'm scared that he's gonna get burnt. Like, no, he's good. He's
Yeah,
literally never burnt, never burnt.
yeah, yeah. Our whole thing when we go to the beach is trying to avoid everybody spraying those aerosol cans everywhere. Can't believe it, man. Everybody just blowing all over us. Like, dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to do an episode on that in the future too, because it's beyond just like human health. Apparently, like it destroys our reefs and such too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's like dystopian when you're on the other side like we are and you're looking at it and everybody's just going and spraying their babies with it, man. I'm like, what are you doing?
It almost seems like you're in a movie now.
It does. Yeah, it does when you're that disconnected from it. You're like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. And that's where I think, honestly, a lot of dis-ease stems from is just like disconnection from, in my opinion, creation. It's like you're a
Mhm.
part of that. And
Right.
the farther that you separate yourself from that, the more symptoms that you're going to experience.
For sure. Agree 100%.
Awesome, man. So, Weston, this was an awesome conversation. I'm glad we're on the same page. We're seem like-minded individuals, even though I'm not really on the raw food train myself yet. Probably in the future. I got to convince wifey to join me, maybe one day.
Sure.
But any tips that you would have for people that are looking to dip their toes into this primal lifestyle, the primal diet?
Yeah, well, I'd say just go with your instincts and intuition. But at the beginning, you're not going to have those developed yet, so you got to kind of probably rely on some other people's information and guidance at the beginning. But after a while, you can just sort of rely on your own instincts. And once you get healthy, just like I said, don't rely on books and intellectual stuff and gurus and things like that, and just rely on the internal source of knowledge that we all have. That's kind of the key. But yeah, and you can just jump right in. A lot of people ask me, are you supposed to just take little bits at a time, eat little bits at a time for raw meat? You can just jump right in like I did and just start eating raw steaks, and that's what I did, and it worked for me. It may not work for everybody, but I know it worked for me. So
And if people wanted to find you and possibly consult with you, would they be able to find you?
you can find me. I'm on Instagram. My channel is called The Real Natural Human Diet. I have a YouTube that I upload to periodically. It's called The Natural Human Diet. And then also, you can shoot me an email. It's 88668 at protonmail.com.
Perfect. Awesome, brother. Well, Weston, I am really appreciative of your time. A lot of this has my mind kind of going right now, so I'm interested to dive into more. Any books that you'd actually recommend? Because I know you said that you have the books, the Primal Book Club.
Yep. Yeah, if you want a full list of all the books I recommend, check out Primal Book Club on Instagram. But I would definitely, just to start out, check out We Want to Live by Autogenous Thunder Planets, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston Price, Dissolving Illusions by Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, um, Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. Let's see. Yeah, there's a whole bunch on there. Dr. Robert Mendelsohn, he's got some great books. Confessions of a Medical Heretic, that's one of my favorite books. Descent in Medicine is another good one by Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. Those are all some goodies. So, yeah.
Perfect, brother. Well, again, Weston, I really appreciate your time today, brother. And I hope that you have a great day and that little man grows up to be happy and healthy.
All right, man. Same to you.